Uh, Yay. Welcome back to the channel, people. I know it's been a while, and a lot of things have been happening. But yeah, I'm playing as black, and no, I haven't jumped up my scheme for how I play players. I'm playing an 1836, as you may have noticed. I played an unrated game here, and the reason why I was trying to warm up, it had been a while since I played chess or looked at chess. But I have some news, and please stick around for that. So we're playing the Caracan, and my opponent is playing the Panov attack. Again, this is a very tricky opening for black if you play the Caracan. But it's one of the things that you're going to have to play against. So I took the pawn. I didn't want my opponent to have anything in the center. But the problem with this move is you lose a tempo because they can attack your queen. And my opponent did exactly that. I didn't expect them to miss this. So I decided to do the check. And the reason why I opted for this check here as opposed to this check is because I wanted to leave room for my bishop. But again, it also walks into that tempo move eventually. So that's why I gave the check, so that I don't lose a tempo. So they block with the bishop. I bring my knight out. They bring their knight out again, trying to move my queen. So it was quite frustrating. So I bring my queen here. And you can tell the computer doesn't like that too much, because now I'm losing. I'm now essentially down a pawn's material. But I was just looking for ways in which I can, be a nuisance to, take this diagonal. But my opponent can attack with the knight there and still cause issues and advance towards me. But they castled. I bring my bishop out because I really want to take that knight, but my position is not great. And I think also in the back of my mind, I'm playing an 1800. So they push. I bring my queen to the corner. I really didn't have a good place to put my queen. The attack I took, I'm happy with this because it's just the bishop. But now the bishop's got this good diagonal here. And if they take here, I'm going to lose my rook. So I think I spotted that. Yes, I did. That's why I played this move. So as I play that move, the one I just highlighted to you, I'll just move my rook up. And they weren't really doing anything. So, game's going on. My opponent's clearly winning, and I'm not happy. And I'm thankful that I'm playing an unrated game, to try and warm up. But it just shows me that I hadn't played chess in a while. And I think here, this would have been a good move, though. Pushing to here. Because, they're essentially lining up here. So, because they can essentially put, technically, this square here is not defended by this pawn anymore, because you can't put your king in check and take. As you can see, I can't draw arrows. So they went for this Forkaruski kind of thing. And again, had my bishop in here, they wouldn't have moved that without losing essentially the entire house. That would have been just a losing move. So they took, and I bring my rook, my bishop in line to face that rook. They go back, which felt like a waste. And here my opponent got greedy. So I castled, and I know this side looks weak, but it is protected. My pawns can do things. My queen can easily go across. If I have to, I can bring this knight through here, and really this square is not as weak as he thinks it is. So my opponent went for they kicked away my bishop, and I'm like, okay, fair. So I bring my bishop back. Now I'm lining up to go for this diagonal here, for that square, the h2. So my opponent brings their bishop out. They have a bishop here, but it doesn't really seem to be doing anything for them. So I bring my rook across because I'm threatening to double up, dominate this file. And I think my opponent should have challenged me for that. So they decide to push my queen around, and I'm like, okay. So I go here. Again, essentially, if they came here, I probably would have come down here to make sure that this pawn doesn't fall, because I want to move my knight to this square here. which is where my knight is better suited. And my opponent played this move. So it took me 3 seconds to find it. So they played it, and I'm thinking, what does that do? Again, my opponent got tunnel visioned. They wanted to attack the square for a quick checkmate, and I took, and my opponent resigned. So the Panov is a very, very good opening for white. They will attack you. They will come for you. So it's a matter of now trying to find what is the best way in which you can protect yourself as you attack there. So there's not much you can do, but play the game and you play the best move. Anyway, so let me show you game 2. Okay, so this is game 2. Playing, a rated game again, and as we were playing here, this game was pretty fascinating. So again, my opponent goes for I don't know what they're called. It's a queen's pawn, weakening the squares without pushing the central pawns. So at first I thought the game was like some sort of London, like a Jabava London, but I go with the Caracan and my opponent locks the position in, essentially transposing this to a Slav defense, which I don't play very often. And so I go opening up. So generally they'd put their knight there, but I left it. I was like, okay, let me just continue my developing moves. And this, when they weaken that side of the king side with the push of the G and H pawns from white, I always seems like I have a good game. But even though I'm going to castle that side, I just need to be a bit more careful. And with the way the pawns are structured, it kind of limits the game. So here I make space for my bishop because my opponent could trap it. So they bring their knight out, and here I'm offering the trade, and we kind of trade the house. And I think they wanted me to give up my bishop for the knight there, but in that position, I should have gone here, push here, get this pawn break, because my opponent takes, I take, and I weakened, their pawns. But in hindsight, in my mind, my opponent had to take, but they didn't have to. They could have just moved, and they pushed. So, and this allowed them to lock the position. So now the weakness has to be from this pawn. If that pawn falls, the rest fall. So, that's what I'm trying to go for. So I take with my knight there, and then lock it this way, which is what I expected. So I bring my bishop back, because I felt my bishop had no future really being in this position here. So I'm just trying to open the position. So I attack their bishop. Again, we're all moving areas, where the pawns were not supposed to, but it kind of locks the position. So I took, and then I offered the trade. I was happy with this, even though Stockfish is not quite happy with me. I took with my rook, because I want to keep that file. So I took, and they make this move, and I move my queen back. And when they did this, I missed that by them moving their queen here, this hangs. So I really didn't take time to analyze the position. I was more fixated on trying to challenge this file here. But it wasn't really that important, because there was nothing my opponent could do. They can't infiltrate. If I take and they bring their rook here, I could offer this check, which then allows me to protect this pawn and then move my king up. So, for example, let me show you. So, had my opponent decided to, so I take here, right? And then they bring their rook here. That's okay. Anyway, disregard everything I just said. See, this is why sometimes you don't listen to 1600s and they tell you chess moves. So I played this move. I took with my queen, and I missed that this pawn was hanging. So now I'm down a pawn, and this is not really down 2 pawns now. And they took a 3rd pawn, and here this is drawing, and it's drawing if I play the right move. So here I just started offering him a ton of checks, and I didn't really pay attention to where my opponent could or couldn't go. So I'm just looking for ways in which I can continue checking, and keep my opponent trapped. But here now, Stockfish loves my opponent's position because they've really done the inevitable. They've gone to a place where they're gonna run their king, and there's nothing I can do. So my opponent promoted to another queen, and I'd resigned myself to losing. There's nothing I can do, and it was only a matter of time, and I couldn't find a way. Even if I'd blocked the check with my queen, um, my king's too far. So even let's say in this position, my opponent fought. If I do this, my opponent takes and I take. Um, they can just come here, and if I go here, could I promote? I cannot. I need two moves, and it's just one move too many for what I need to do. So yeah, you see, and even Stockfish saying mating 14. So my opponent really had me on the ropes here, and yeah, that's how the cookie crumbled. How did it said I played? Yeah, I played with a 76%, so I didn't play great, but I played like a 1650, which is a rating I'd like to have. But my opponent just played, 2100. Anyway, okay. And now this is game three, and here I'm playing the Caracon. Surprise, surprise. So I'm actually quite proud of this game. I'm thinking you enjoyed playing the Caracon, playing the exchange. So all this is in the basic opening. If you follow the Caracon, if you watch, I think it's Chess Centurion or Alex, this is how they play the Caracon. Chess Centurion's got a bit more in-depth explanations, but if you follow Alex, you get what you need to do. So they took, I took, and their queens misplaced where they are there. And here I'm just playing tempo moves because I knew I could attack the queen twice without losing my bishop. And now I'm just trying to target that knight because uh, I did a lesson with a national master. I'll explain a bit more just now on that. And really, my this piece is the most advanced piece in my territory from my opponent. Mike Bobby Fischer had a rule where if anything is in his territory, get rid of it or exchange for it or whatever. So hence I went with that philosophy. And my opponent's really wanting that knight to camp in my position. So I had to figure out what diagonal did I want. So I didn't want to push and have him take because the only way I can recapture is this way. And then I have to move my queen again back to a useful position. So I took, they took, and I pushed. They have to move the knight. They have no good moves. So here now I'm attacking it, threatening that they will double their pawns if they have to take. So I block, and when I took back. And again, they're facing that same dilemma. They don't really have many good places for that knight. And by them stepping away, because they didn't want to double their pawns that side, they lose the pawn. And I'm happy to open that file because even if they bring their rook here, it's not very good. And you see why in a minute. So my opponent did just that, thinking, oh, the position's opening up for them, and they're looking at my king, but my king's protected, safe as houses. Least I can do, I can even move this to protect this fire, this pawn here, this way. So, and they can't really attack me. So I bring my queen down because I'm threatening to take. And one of the only ways my opponent can protect is by moving the king up. And then that looks at together that way. But by them doing that, they can't castle. So that's what I'm asking a lot of good questions to my opponent, and they didn't have too many good answers. So they opted to be down the exchange. And I'm happy in this position because I have this semi-open file. And now, if this pawn or this knight also falls, that pawn's gonna fall. And again, my opponent still hasn't castled, and it would take him two moves for them to even try castle. So really fighting the urge not to give this check because they can just block with the knight, and safely castle after moving their queen. So my opponent preempted that move, And here I was faced with the dilemma. I didn't really know what to do. I knew I'm winning, right? But what do I do? Do I give this check? And I was hesitating about giving that check because they're not going to offer the queen trade, but they can just move this here and we just go back and forth with the checks. And it didn't feel like a worthy place to go. So I went this way. I took a free pawn when pawn hunting. So now I've got two passes and, clear pathway to promotion should I need to. They bring their queen forward. I think they were thinking of castling. I think. But that pawn then hung. Remember, we did mention that with this open here, it allows me to take this pawn here. When I was talking when my queen was on the seventh rank for my opponent. Um, anyway, so I took the free pawn. So now I'm up three pawns, but Stockfish is saying I'm up by like 5 points in material. So really, it's going very well. They bring their knight forward, and now that limits my queen, and I can't take this square because I just lose a queen. So I double, because I'm thinking let's make moves that cause threats, but really doesn't. While I try to figure out what's the winning edge here, because I know I'm winning, but I need to win. So my opponent brings their rook through, and I said to myself, okay, I can take this because my king can go away safely. So they have to take because now their rook can't go anywhere else. So I check. My opponent moves up, and this move was diabolical. The reason why I took it, is because you have to exchange queens, and I've got a rook, you have a knight, and I'm up so many pawns. I'm winning. Period. So my opponent has to take because they've aligned their king, and I think the idea was to just make steps towards my rook to prevent my rook from being able um to threaten my rook. But I took back, and now I've got a clear runway. So my opponent's trying to cause threats, but the threats are easily defended. I just move my king up, which is what I want to do anyway. And now this doesn't do anything. So I check, grab another pawn, and now I've got two pawns. So my idea was get my opponent to resign because this pawn here is a passer. These two, yes, they're doubled, but it's a passer. I got two pawns on the edge of the board making their way forward. There's very little my opponent can do. So they push, and I bring my rook here to make way for my pawn because essentially the king's cut off and my rook can just operate in these two squares and keep the king out the way. So they bring their knight back, and I played this move, which I'm allowing myself to be tempered, yeah. But fortunately they didn't have any good forks. So I bring my pawn up, and they threaten my rook like I mentioned, and I go down all the way to b8. Why not? There's nothing they can do. So they push, and I push this pawn. So my idea was force them to make trades that they don't want, and essentially I'm making more headway for my pawns. And I ensured, this. I remember when I even made this move, I was thinking, are there any forks? Because that's the one thing you need to worry about, especially when they have a knight and your king and rook are close to each other like they are there. There's potential forks, but I made sure. So even where I moved my rook, you can tell I'm taking a bit of time here because from 4-2 to 349, I'm using a bit of time, but I can win. So this move not only allows you not to take my rook for free, but also I'm defending this pawn that my opponent can't make any threats. So they bring their king down, and I push. Again, if you push, close to promoting. I have too many pawns. And they take, I took, and again, I can push this pawn up, I can push this pawn, and I can push this pawn. So my opponent has to make a decision. So they push here, threatening the pawn, I push. And here my opponent resigned because, like I said, the game's pointless. Um, you can't stop this many pawns from promoting. There's really nothing they can do. And even, if I wasn't going to move my rook here, but if I was on the fourth rank here and I pushed to check, I could force an exchange. And, you're too slow. There's no way they're gonna come and take this pawn, and move the king out the way and promote this. I mean, I'm already here. This is two moves away, and you can't do anything because even if they were to block here, and say, okay, I'm defending this square, I will just push again, and the king's not fast enough, and you come up to try do this pawn here. I will promote, which will force you to take, and I'll take, and you can take that pawn, and I'll just bring my rook here. King can't come across this pawn. You can't take that pawn. Oh, why continue? So my opponent resigned, and I was very proud of this game. As I'll show you here, I played 90% accuracy. You know, this game was just diabolical. Once I took that free piece, that was the end of it. As the game review is even saying here. And my opponent really lost the game on this from this move here. Um, let's see what happened there. This move, yeah, if you could allow me to click properly. What did I take? When I took the bishop, yeah, this was the I was already winning in a winning position, yeah, but this just made it worse. That's when they just started losing pawns. My opponent needed a castle, and losing that exchange is what just. And you can see I never let up. If you look at the eval bar here, I never let up. Anyway, if you watched up until the end of this video, thank you very much, and I'd like to thank you all. Recently, something good happened. Like I've joined the Improvers Club. If you're there, that's what also why I have so many of these social messages, because this group is diabolical. People just send messages about anything. Anyway, so I won video of the month for February, and that led to a big spike in my channel. And also that scared me because now I'm thinking now a lot of people are watching my stuff, um, terrified. But thank you all. I know there's nothing playing here. Maybe I'll just do this as I continue here. For those that actually do watch the videos, those that actually taking the time to subscribe, all 16 of you, thank you very much. I'm very happy to have you join me on this journey, and let's continue together. I'll play a bit more chess. Bought a few courses with the rewards from winning video of the month. I bought one on the Scotch Gambit and the Caracan, and that's what I'll use for warm-ups. Every time I warm up, I'll do a lesson, and if I'm feeling sharp and if I'm remembering my positions, I'll play a game. And that'll lead to more games and more videos, and hopefully more of you joining and watching. So thank you again, and I really appreciate everything that you do. Um, Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next one. Again, please do like and subscribe. And if you've watched until the end, please do support local YouTube. Uh, some say it's the right thing to do, but it's something to do. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next one.